Hello, I am Gabriel Banerjee, being a professor of the Wellenke Institute. My total experiences comprises of 14.5 years being into learning and development throughout. Currently, I'm working on psychology. I'm doing a degree in psychology, and the topic today that I'm talking about, Pygmalion effect and self-fulfilling prophecy. In all aspects of life, it talks about the psychological aspect of individual and human beings. Now, please understand, when I talk about the Pygmalion effect, let me give you a small introduction of what it is all about. How many of you all do remember the T20 World Cup 2007 when Mahendra Singh Dhoni asked Joginder Sharma to bowl the last over? How many of you remember VVS Laxman playing the brilliant 167 knock in Sydney against the fearsome Australian pace attack? How many of you do remember the famous victory in Lords in the NatWest series under the captaincy of Sourav Ganguly, chasing 300 plus runs in that particular field where India was down by 5 wickets? Now, if you look at all these incidents, a lot of people may say that this happens by sheer chance or any other probable cause. But if you look at probably, it's what it talks about is this what I call as Pygmalion effect and self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, just to give you an intro of what it is actually the Pygmalion effect, Robert Rosenthal, a behavioral psychologist in the year 1950s, discovered something known as the Pygmalion effect and the self-fulfilling prophecy. There are a lot of other things that we can talk about. It talks about Greek mythology, it talks about Indian mythology. How many of us do remember the famous Mahabharata serial where it was shown that Krishna kills Kanksha because of what we call as the self-fulfilling prophecy? Now, in the next following some time, we'll be talking about it and how can we implement that in our day-to-day life, because we all expect to be the best. Everybody expects us to be the best. Our seniors, our colleagues, our friends, our family members, even everybody whom we can think about, they expect best from us. One more important thing, there is no pure prescription as to how the Pygmalion effect happens, or are there any methodologies to give you that. It's purely in your belief system. It's the belief that you carry will create that effect inside you. Now, since I was talking about Pygmalion effect and the vice versa of all, according to the self-fulfilling prophecy, let me give you the definition of what Pygmalion effect is all about. If you read mythological scriptures, if you read all these things, you might understand that ancient times there was a prince of Cyprus called Pygmalion. He was the prince of that particular kingdom. Now, he was also a sculptor. He used to make different idols of different things. For him, an idol woman was something very different, and he made a sculpture of that particular thing. When he made that sculpture, he named it Galatia, and he prayed to the love god, the Venus and Aphrodite, to put life into that sculpture because he was so in love with that sculpture. Now, initially, it did not happen so easily. What I'm trying to say is, it's the belief system that he had that this is the ideal woman I have made. If I can put life into it, it will create the best wife I would ever have. Basis on that of the belief system, he started speaking to God day in, day out. And thus, the love god Venus and Aphrodite started giving the life to that particular sculpture. Now, once that sculpture came alive, she became one of the beautiful women ever made. She became one of the best wives ever being there in that particular time, and thus making that family as one of the best family lived happily ever after. Now, please understand, there are two things. If you look at, there is the Pygmalion effect. It teaches us sometimes that, what do I believe in this society? Today we can talk about n number of things as far as the education is concerned. We do MBAs, we do engineering, we do a lot of other things, but it's the system what you believe in. Let me give an example of one of my friend that I have till today. He was trying for MBA institutes for as long as 3 years, 4 years and 5 years, and every time he was not able to pass the written test. On the 9th time, he passed out the written test called CAT, the CAT, or the other tests that were there in that time, and he went to go for IIM Calcutta, and from there onwards it's a story unfolding in all various aspects of life. But During that time, after he got through and he went through a job, I asked him one specific question. I mean, what happened to you? You failed miserably. You failed all the times in the last 7 to 8 years. You did not even think about what will you become. You didn't even bother. You just went on to do it, and do it. And then he gave me a fundamental answer. It's a basic fundamental answer. That, Gabriel, I just thought about, there are good days and there are bad days. I'm just currently going through the bad days. One day the good day would come. And it came and he shined. That is what is called as Pygmalion effect. And the Galatia effect. The Galatia effect is nothing but called as the self-fulfilling prophecy. What you believe in determines your behavior in that situation, and what you behave in that situation will determine what you will want to be in the future. And Pygmalion effect is nothing but the other resources like your parents, your teachers, your friends, your colleagues, everybody in that rule who says, no, you can do it. No, this is what you need to do it. Absolutely magnificent. You can give me more. Now let's talk about the first instance that I said. MS Dhoni gave the ball to Joginder Sharma when there were other big players standing out there. When asked in a post-match interview to Dhoni, I mean, what make you think that Joginder Sharma can pull out the entire? He said only one thing: I believed in him. That's, my dear friends, is called Pygmalion effect. And when the ball was given to Joginder Sharma and Joginder delivered what was asked, is called the Galatia effect, which in turn talks about nothing but the self-fulfilling prophecy. N number of stories. If you go and watch the movie 2006 Krish movie, I hope you all remember this movie. It's a sequel to Koi Mil Gaya. If you watch this movie very carefully, Dr. Arya, which is played by Nasruddin Shah, talks about the future, talks about all those things. Now, in identifying the future, what goes on pretty good, as well as understanding that he should not die in the future, and then casting it forward. Now, in the movie, what has been shown that he creates a machine which typically shows you the future, and he comes to know that he is being killed by a masked man, a masked vigilante. In search of that, he tries to actually make true the time of his death by killing the wrong person, which in turns exaggerates Krish, and he takes the revenge, thus fulfilling the prophecy that would never have come, because we would die in some day, today, tomorrow, or in the near future. So that is what I call as the Pygmalion effect and its effect in the modern society. Now, please understand, in different aspects of life, it has repercussions in the educational field, it has repercussions in the psychological field, it has repercussions in the corporate world, it has repercussions in the business. So let me start, and since I was talking about the definition, let me start of giving you a small hint of how does it happen in the modern world. Once again, the example of cricket, NatWest Trophy, 2002, Nasir Hussain's team posted a 300 plus total, and India 160 odd for 5. Nobody believed. I mean, even sometimes, even though I give lecture on this thing, sometimes I did not believe that they will make through. But in a post-match interview, as said by Yuvraj and Kev, they said it is easily achievable if we can break it into small pieces. For example, they were at one point of time more runs than ball. What they did was, they captured that if we can make it 70 in 60 or less than 70 in 60, so we can take one bat ball at a time and we can play it. They believed it, and end of the day, they won the match. That's what is called Pygmalion effect. That's what is called is the effect of somebody who believes in. You do not leave till the time you have breath, and that's what it's called, the Pygmalion effect. Now, in the definition also, if you look, it's also called as the Rosenthal effect, because Robert Rosenthal was the first behavioral psychologist to discover this effect. It had been there in the past, but he was the first behavioral psychologist to come up with this concept called this, and he implemented it. The first thing he implemented in life was with a group of students in US under the flagship of University of California, Los Angeles. What he did was, he took the best students of all the classes and he took the worst students of all these classes, and he divided into 2 segments. Segment 1, the teacher of that particular segment would treat them badly even though they have come up with very good results. They'll start speaking these words that you cannot do anything, you are worthless, you will never do anything in life, this is what you do, this is not what you're meant to do, and all sort of negative behavior. On the other hand, the group of people that was the worst, the teachers were told that you will only speak positive. You will speak, yes, you can do it. You will speak, yes, you can achieve it. You will put the positive belief in themselves. Well, after 6 months, the result was completely out of the box. The core team, which was the best as to be in that school in all those time, came out to be the one of the worst candidates in that 6 months. And on the other side, the worst guys who were there came out to be the best person, irrespective of their caste, religion, or what background they had. It's just for the simple reason that on every time they were speaking about positive belief, and positive belief, nothing else. So my dear friends, when you look at all these things in today's modern society and the corporate era, believe in what you can do. It's that what will build your future. You're doing a great job, but what will make it more advanced, what will make it more fruitful, and one of the best notorious guys that stands out in the crowd is your belief system. How would you do it? How would you want to do it? What are the things that... So start thinking from a very positive front. If you're going for a semester exam, start thinking, yes, I'll top the list. One more example. In 1970s, known as Dallas County, who was one of the best rugby team in the world, was going through a very slump phase. They hired a new coach. The first day the coach came in, he said a word. How many of you believe that we are going to win all the matches in this season, and the season after this, and the season after this? There was a wild smile in the entire dressing room, thinking, what is he saying? Is he saying that this is what he means to do? But truthfully, in the next 3 seasons, that rugby team became one of the best teams in history, winning all the matches in the next 3 seasons. They did not lose a single match. Again, Pygmalion effect. If I believe in something, I pass on that belief to someone, and so on and so forth, and that's how things go on with a lot of potentiality. With that note, we come to the Galicia effect. Now, as we all know, that Pygmalion effect is about motivating others. It's about believing in others. Galicia effect is, on the other front, is believing in me. So if I give you an example, let's say one of your faculties comes to you and says, you can do it. I want you to stretch a bit, but you can do it. So he is using the Pygmalion effect on you to make you believe what you can do. The moment you start believing in what you can do is called the Galicia effect. Galicia was known again, the ivory sculpture statue created by Pygmalion in those days, as the myth says. And once she started to believe that yes, I am the one who can deliver what he wanted, I can become what he wanted, I can pass on everything that comes in my life, what he wanted, it gives you the absolute magnificent called as the self-fulfilling prophecy. So what you believe in, how you deliver, it's all the truth. However, in the definition of self-fulfilling prophecy, that's we all talk about, it's something that you believe in. It starts from self. You fulfill your own belief system, and that's triggering to call as self-fulfilling prophecy. If you look at one more thing, and I want to read one of the few lines from this particular thing, it's called the Galicia effect. These words mean that the individual's opinion about his ability and his self-expectations. Please understand, my dear friends, it talks about your ability and your self-expectations. Okay, what is self-expectation? Self-expectation is nothing but willingness. So when I talk about ability, ability has 3 valuable points. Point number 1, knowledge. Point number 2, experience. Point number 3, skill. Self-expectation on how confident are you, how committed are you, and how motivated are you. Thus, triggering the actual Galicia effect by giving you a nutshell that this is what I can do in turn. Just to give you a small hint of all these things, you look at all the big scientists, what they have done in their lifelong. I mean, you talk about APJ Abdul Kalam Azad. He first invented the Prithvi missile for India. But if you look at their actual track record, one thing that was common in them is their ability and their self-expectations about his own performance. yes, I can perform, yes, I can do it. So once again, when Vivesh Lakshman walks out into the field in Sydney in that famous tour against Australia, he just blasted all the bowlers out of the ground, making 167, and thus creating a belief in himself that every time Australian bowler comes, I am the superior person, not them. And if you look at Vivesh Lakshman's career history, I mean, in test matches and in one-day internationals, there is a significant amount of runs being scored against Australia than any other cricketing nations, thus triggering to what I said is known as the Galicia effect. It's the self-ability and the expectations. Similarly, if you look at, I mean, I can go on giving examples. For one, in the education world, we lot of talk about a lot of people getting into the MBAs today, the engineering today. They want to deal with a lot of other things. That's what the belief you carry, right? That after doing this, I'll be getting into one of the best corporate world. Do believe in that, because that creates that expectation and ability inside you to go there and perform and make everyone proud, including you. Yes, even though if I look at roadblocks, even Pygmalion had a roadblock. Initially, the goddess of love never wanted to put life into it. Initially, Galicia was never existed. They always said that you cannot happen, but he believed in one thing: yes, it can happen. And if it happens, that is how truly it went on to secure what it's called as the Pygmalion effect of today. Now, in this Pygmalion effect, the actual inception, as I said earlier, talks about it's a psychological teaching. Please understand, it's a psychological teaching. There is no prescriptive format as to what can I do to inherit that by the Greek mythology. Now, let us come to the actual context of what we are trying to portray out here, and let me give you understanding that he pleaded with the goddess Venus to give life to his creation, and she obliged. So to achieve what I want to achieve, and I have to achieve, it's that what you need to focus on. Forget anything. I mean, once again, Pygmalion effect, we all talk about Mahabharata, right? How many of you do remember when Arjuna was asked before the target, what do you see? Everybody else said, I see the tree, I see the parrot, I see the bird, I see the sky, I see a lot of other things, and projecting focus on it. But when asked to Arjun, he said a simple thing: I only see the eye of the bird, because that is my target. And thus becoming one of the best known archeries of that time. What it means is, when you go back, when you come back to your actual educational world, the context talks about is nothing is impossible. Pygmalion effect gives you that self-belief. Even when I as an individual go and deliver various kind of workshops at various places, when I go and deliver at various levels, junior, mid-management, senior management, at any levels, even I do have certain times the questioning ability to myself, can I perform at my self-expected level? And the answer always I get, yes, why can't I? This is what I need to do to achieve what is called as the Pygmalion effect. Now, having said all about Pygmalion effect and what we know about the self-fulfilling prophecy, let us also take a look at the initial talking about married the resulting woman. They had a perfect life together. The ivory statue was named Galicia. It's called as the self-fulfilling prophecy. But please remember, it also talks about she can perform as per expectations, thus bringing life to the concept called self-fulfilling prophecy. Once again, it's the belief and told by Pygmalion that gives the clear-cut picture of what she believed in. It's not what others say. It's what you believe in and what your surrounding says about you. Going on this perfect, now let us talk about Pygmalion and Galicia effect in the context of all these things, where it is used, how it is used, what are the techniques that can be used as a technique, how can I use Pygmalion effect in my life, what are the other aspect of Pygmalion effect. The first thing, I mean, initially when Pygmalion effect and Galicia effect was tried, the first it was tried on theorists and management. The big theory players who created theory in the earlier years, they tried it on the education level, and as the previous example given by me. The second, it was tried to find out the need about how to implement. Not why, how to implement. How do I produce the Pygmalion effect as well as the Galicia effect called self-fulfilling prophecy? Then techniques used by educationists at various educational institutes. What it means is, you will find a group of faculty always talks about, yes, he is the guy, he can do it much better than anyone can, and he always speaks about that in front of the student. Have you ever wondered why? You know, we willingly or unwillingly, we share our positive communications or negative communications, or positive body language or negative body language, positive thoughts, negative thoughts, always either through our non-verbal communication or through our verbal communication or through our thoughts or through our looks. We try to portray all these things to the people around us. The people we like, the people we dislike, the people who are there with us. One of the classic example would be, we have been doing good in all of your years, be it your education, be it your corporate or anything, and suddenly you fail in one semester. What happens? Once again, giving another example from a movie, Three Idiots. If you remember, the first person to create that camera, which is called as the surveillance camera, which could fly in the air, he was expelled from the engineering college, and incidentally he had to commit suicide, but he believed in that. In the same way, Ranchod Das Chachad, in the sense Phunshuk Wangdu, came up with that same idea concept and he implemented it. The question becomes, how do I implement? Where do I implement? Because when you go with these two questions, it creates a technique in itself by saying, why should I implement? You know, one fine aspect of that movie, and I talk about this effect, is that word Raju Farnalization. When he does all these things in that particular room by saying, this is how it should be. Not. Because we all know that you are the best faculty to teach us. But at the end of the day, it is I who need to believe in to deliver that. Then, a psychological phenomenon that encompasses the idea that what one expects of an individual becoming to a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, on this, let me give you another example from Indian mythology, or the context from Indian mythology. We all watched Mahabharata. Karna, Kunti, Kansh, Krishna all had their own belief system. Now, the topic that I want to share with you right now is the topic that talks about the episode of Krishna and Kangsha. Now, as what the myth says, that by a vow it was said to Kangsha that you will be killed by your own bloodline, that is from the birth child of your sister. On hearing so, what he did was he captured his sister and her husband and put it into a cellar. In turn, wanted to kill anybody who is born biologically from those two parents, thus killing 6. The 7th was a miscarriage because of what had, and in turn these two parents created something, an alibi, as a fake of their child's death, so that the 8th son was born and being smuggled out of that particular cellar and being born and brought up by their foster parents. Now, in this particular context, Kangsha comes to know that this is what has happened. So what he starts doing, he starts sending different various methods to kill, but on the other side, Krishna and his brother Balarama kills all those things, the demons, the snake, and all those things that comes their way, and in turn asks a question to his foster mom Yashoda, that why is this happening? What wrong have I done in life? And thus giving him the ultimate picture that this is what was said and you need to fulfill that. And then when he goes and kills Kangsha, thus fulfilling the prophecy what Kangsha believed. Let's just think once a while, what if Kangsha wouldn't have believed that this child could kill me and would have given something else? So a negative behavioral indicator has created the negative impact, thus killing Kangsha. Instead, if it had used a positive behavior, it would have been a different way out. We do not know. And thus creating the effect of the Pygmalion effect in the management terminology. That's why we always talk about the self-fulfilling prophecy, that what do I believe in and how do I portray that in other words. Classic example, have you ever thought of this? Once you wake up in the morning and you start saying, today it's not going to be my day, I think it's not going to be my day, might be a possibility that it will be not happening together, and thus bringing it to your notice that whatever you're doing today, it's not happening what you want it to be, thus creating the fulfilling prophecy to its effect. Now, the Indian context, as I said, on the very true, is again with the prediction of directly, indirectly causes, again the 6 children as well. Now, let us bring this context to our own world as we talk about in the Indian context. We all believe, we stay in Bombay, we stay in different parts of India, and we go there. Now, suddenly when we go to a certain state, we start with a belief, or we get into an organization to work, we start with a belief, well, what I expected, it didn't happen. The moment you say this to yourself, thus creating an expectation inside you that whatever happens from now on, it is not going to create your expectation benchmark, thus creating a self-fulfilling prophecy in itself to say, this is not the right place have I come. One of the finest example that was created by Robert Rosenthal in the early years of 1950s and 60s, when he did it with one of his psychological students, he asked her that, how's your marriage? Every day, the lady used to come to him and say, my marriage is not working. Rather than telling her that why it was working, he starts saying, okay, can you look at this aspects? Can you look at this aspects to return and think in a different connotation? Can you think of very different aspects of life, thus saving the marriage? On the other side, the same thing happened with another lady where he could not do, believing that lady that the marriage is not truly to happen, it happened. However, having said that, you also have to remember that these are all theories. There are positive and negative impact. Please understand, no theory today as of now I have seen can come with a positive or can come with a negative impact. They both have their dual effects, provided what you choose to implement. And if you're choosing to implement one fine thing in your life, that yes, I will do what I am best to do, I will do what is needed to do, I'll break all the rules, you can do it. Another example, Sergei Bubka, one of the best pole vaulters of the current era as I have seen. He broke his record 35 times, created by himself. 35 times, can you imagine how many times does it take to break a record of 35 times? So he competed with no one else in this world. He only competed to himself, thus increasing the expectation and thus creating a self-fulfilling prophecy by saying, I can break my own records. On the same way, Michael Schumacher, he was a 7-time world champion of the F1 race. In the initial era of his career, he was never a very good driver. He was always at the second level. Then he started believing in himself, and then he made wonders. Okay, Nadia Comaneci, one of the first gymnasts, was the perfect originator of the perfect 10. You know, when she was asked after that perfect 10 in the Olympics, how did you achieve this? See this, I practiced for 16 hours. This was mere a practice for me, thus believing and creating the self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, the current prodigy, the question that I always said, how do I apply the technique of Pygmalion and Galatia effect in our life? What shall we do? How shall I do? What are the methods that will help me to overcome whatever the negative beliefs that I have? Now, please understand very carefully now. Okay, the first thing that I want to highlight is our actions towards others. Please, when I say our actions, actions is a combination of your belief system and your behavior towards others. So, for example, if I like someone, my way of communication would be different. If I dislike someone, my way of communication would be different. So, instead, our actions towards others would create an impact to others' beliefs about us. Example, I like to eat chocolate ice cream. I have a couple of friends. Now, because I like chocolate ice cream, I always try to force others that I want to go and eat a chocolate ice cream. What happens to others' beliefs about me? Every time Gabriel comes, he only wants to have chocolate ice cream. He doesn't want to change. Just see, I'm only with the half of this circle. That my action of just only thinking that I would only take chocolate ice cream and I will not take any other ice creams creates an impact to others' belief system that he is not willing to change. Now, because they have already created a mindset, a belief system that I'm not willing to change or Gabriel is not willing to change, will actually cause the others' actions towards me. So they will start saying, let's not take Gabriel because he doesn't want to explore. He only wants to stick to chocolate ice cream. It's a metaphor. Don't take it in a different connotation. Once again, I like someone in the classroom or the corporate world and I try to interact with him a lot. But in the same group, I don't interact with others. Thus, my action creates an impact to the other's belief that I am biased towards others. This is how biasness is created. Now, once that biasness is created, that bias will create the cause of others' action towards me. Similarly, if I'm not talking with others, that group will not talk with me. In this case, that action will reinforce our belief about ourselves. Yes, what I'm doing the best, and thus in turn influence our actions towards others, which means creating the self-fulfilling prophecy. One final example before we call it in this particular session. We all talked about various characters and I can go on talking about it. But if you look at today's scenario and we talk about the leadership of Dhoni as a corporate lecturer in all the senses, what we try to portray out there is what makes Dhoni so different from his peers as a role model. He's calm, he's cool, he delivers what it is wanted, he gets what he wants, he's a performance-oriented man. Now, let us take that context, put it into our management context today. Now, Dhoni's actions towards others. Dhoni believes in 3 simple policies. If you have the right attitude to perform, if you have the right ability to perform, you will definitely create the skill to perform. Now, this is Dhoni's actions towards others, thus creating an impact on others' beliefs. So, what does others' beliefs in Dhoni's team? That fine, if Dhoni is giving me that space, that yes, I do have the attitude and the ability, I can create my skill. Thus, creating as a wonderful batsman in the name of Suresh Raina or Virat Kohli, okay, wonderful bowlers like Bhuvneshwar Kumar, wonderful fielders, that creates the cause of others' actions. So there is nobody to hide. They know very clearly if I perform, I'll stay in the team. There are nothing on chances, and thus reinforcing Dhoni's belief system to behave with his entire team, and thus making Dhoni one of the potential performance leader in today's era. Thanks a lot all of you for listening to this wonderful called Pygmalion Effect and Self-Fulfilling Prophecy. I hope you have understood what I talked about Dhoni's performance-oriented leadership and all these things, and I hope you will implement this in your day-to-day life, whether it's in education or it's in semester exams or whatever you do in life. I hope you all the best. Thanks a lot to all of you for listening to this. All the best. You all rock.